How does your Uncle Squinty evaluate the quality and nicotine content of snuffs? Hi, everybody. I am Paul Shalbetter. They call me Uncle Squinty. I call myself Uncle Squinty. And once in a while, if I'm feeling particularly feminine, I refer to myself as Fluffy. We are here today to talk a little bit about how and the why of how I rate nasal snuffs. Now, recently, on Friday, in fact, I reviewed Horse Feathers by Simply Snuff, and I gave it a rating of 3. That is, in fact, a fairly unusual rating for me, okay? And I get emails over the last 10 years. I've gotten a number of comments or emails where the viewer has asked, you only rate snuffs 4 or 5. Why don't you just trash more snuffs? Surely there are snuffs you don't like, whatever. So I'm here today to explain how the Squinty Scale is formed and how I rate nicotine on snuffs. Okay, this is kind of important because I've been getting some questions. On Friday, I reviewed Horse Feathers by Simply Snuff, and I gave it a 3, maybe a 3 with a minus. There was something off-putting. And almost immediately, I got a message from a viewer who asked to be anonymous, who said, and no, it wasn't Simply Snuff, it wasn't Simon, but somebody wrote me and said, wow, you gave a 3 to Horse Feathers. Why? And I can understand that. With a couple of his snuffs, they're very polarizing. They're love-hate snuffs from the Simply Snuffs. And as proof of that, my first 2 comments to Horse Feathers, the first comment said, I will never buy another brand of snuff, period. I have found Simply Snuff that will be my brand for life. Amazing snuffs. But the second comment said, these are disgusting. I will never buy these again. You know, nice try, Prophet Boy. Whatever. And, you know, that shows you how polarized people can be as far as what they like or dislike in snuffs. And that makes being a reviewer a little bit difficult. I'd like to remind you again that your perception of how good or bad a snuff is and which aromas you'll be able to perceive and appreciate, a lot of that is based on the amount of time that you've been taking snuff, how regularly, how knowledgeable you are about other snuff types, aromas, and whatever. It also has a lot to do with body chemistry. Now today, as part of this video, I'm going to take a second look at that Horse Feathers that I gave a 3 on Friday, because I'm counting on the fact that my body chemistry changes from day to day. And whatever I was smelling that put me off of the Horse Feathers, I might not be able to smell today, or I might even find those smells to be pleasant today, where they weren't pleasant on Friday. First of all, I will say this. If I rate any snuff lower than 3, 2, 1, it doesn't mean you should not try it. It just means it disagrees with me. I don't know how it'll affect you. I don't know if you will like it better than I do. So take it just as a guide. You know, that's my tastes, and we don't argue tastes. You can argue opinion, but you cannot argue tastes or facts. Facts are facts, and tastes are incredibly and completely subjective. So, you know, just because I say something sucks might not mean you'll find it as bad as I did. With that in mind, I'm going to try the Horse Feathers again. But before I'll do that because this will allow me to have some time with the snuff while I talk about the nicotine scale and so on. So here we go. Nope, that is not the Horse Feathers. That is the Chin Chin. One of the disadvantages of being a blind snuff reviewer is not being able to read the labels, but that is also one of the advantages of being a blind snuff reviewer. Really have to count on my beautifully talented nose. And that's the Sanity Clause. Don't want that. I've got all the Simply Snuffs here that I have, except for the Marrakesh, which is in my current rotation box and is in another part of the house. Like that one very much. Love the Marrakesh. Love the Boudlium. Okay, there it is. This is the horse feathers. Now, nothing about my initial perception of the snuff changes. It is still finely ground, very moist, it's very nice. But when I sniff the tin, the last time I started out, all I could smell was the anise. Maybe a little bit of the basil, but not very much. And I wasn't getting the scent of the Rustica tobacco at all. But today, I'm smelling less of the anise and more of the Rustica. Body chemistry change? Maybe. Let's find out. I'm going to take a big whiff of this. And I mean a big whiff. Because this, even though it's fine, it's moist enough that I can do basically a sunflower seed size pinch instead of an apple seed. You can take shovels of this if you can stand the burn. And that's part of the trick. Because this one is a good burner. I actually like the burn. I like it. Makes me feel alive. Makes me feel like I'm packing more heat where it counts, if you know what I'm talking about. Okay, here we go. Cheers. Yeah, I'm getting a lot more Rustica on the first blast than I did on Friday. And the burn. Oh, I love the burn. I love the burn. Oh, my face is on fire. This is great. But what I'm smelling here is different from the memories I have of what I sniffed on Friday. Isn't that weird? But it's because our body temperature change, or body chemistry changes. Hell, it may have something to do with your temperature too. And it has to do with your environment as well. Are there competing smells in the environment? Have you just used another snuff, and even though you blew it out, maybe there are some remnants there, right? So there's a lot of things that can affect it. Now, just on first sniff here, I'm finding this to be way more pleasant than I did on Friday. And if it continues to be this good in my nose, I'll probably upgrade my Squinty Scale rating from 3 to 4. More delicious than disgusting. All right, here's how I envision my own scale, my Squinty Scale, where 1 is disgusting and 5 is delicious, and the best you can get. Look, if I rate something as a 5, delicious, the best you can get, it means not only do I love it, but I'm absolutely sure you're going to love it too, no matter what your tastes or body chemistry or whatever. It's a universally great snuff. That will get a 5 out of 5. 4 out of 5. I love it, but there's enough variability in there that you might not. It's a 5 out of 5 for me, but it might be a 3 for everybody else. In that case, I'll give it a 4. A quality snuff, great quality snuff, but it may have scent elements, aroma elements that some people might find disagreeable. A rating of 3 on the Squinty Scale. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the snuff. Most people would like it, but to me, there is something about the aroma profile or grind or something that puts me off the snuff. In the case of the horse feathers by Simply Snuff, I was not impressed at the way the aroma of the Rustica interacts with the toppings. I didn't like it. And there was something nagging me that I couldn't really put my finger on. I have since put my finger on it, and we can talk about it. Have to grab another Disposo hanky here, excuse me. Yeah, the one thing about the Simply Snuff horse feathers is that when I did it on Friday, I got almost no forward drip, even though I expected a lot. And I even said so in the video, but there was almost no forward drip. And the back drip was profuse, throat drip was profuse, and fairly nasty. Now, I'll let you know about the throat drip today. And it's starting, but it's not as profuse as it was on Friday. And it's not stinging me. And I find the tastes, if you want to call it that, the aromas I'm getting in the back of my mouth, to be quite pleasant, where I didn't find them so pleasant on Friday. And I gave it a 3 out of 5 on Friday. So a 3, again, that means it's a perfectly acceptable snuff. There's nothing wrong with it per se. But for me, there's something off-putting about the aroma profile, the grind, or some other aspect of the snuff. All right? Excuse me. All right. Now let's talk about a number two. Number two, there is definitely something wrong with the snuff. The grind is uneven, it's too moist, it's too dry for the style of snuff it is. There is a cheap aroma or aroma that fades very quickly, and the aromas it leaves behind are not pleasant without the aroma that has gone away. Something makes it unacceptable. 90% of snuff takers would never be offended by that. They will sniff a snuff that I consider to be a 2 and think it's just fine. Except sometimes the unevenness of grind in particular, or badly distributed moisture or something like that, will lower the quality and could even make it a 2. Now, all of those, all 4 that I just mentioned, none of them should discourage you from buying and trying a particular snuff. But when we get to number 1, truly disgusting, what I'm saying is, do not sniff this. Do not give it away to a friend or an enemy. Take it outside your house, and wherever you have ant problems, just pour the snuff on the anthill. You got fire ants you want to get rid of down there in Texas? You just get a big old tin of some disgusting snuff like 6 Photos, Gold Rush, or Curry, or Delali Tap from Fubar, another curry snuff, or Bohica, another chili chocolate. You just dump that. You just dump it on the anthill, kill those damn ants, because that's the only thing it's good for. 1 is the harshest possible thing I could say about a snuff, because what it says is, do not, under any circumstances, sniff this shit. You will not like it. It will be disagreeable to you. It may make you feel sick. You don't need it. Poison ants with it. Period. Okay, now that's how the Squinty Scale works. 5, it's going to be universally liked, with some outliers, of course. And 1, it's going to be universally loathed. And there's some gray area in between, ratings 2, 3, and 4. I hope that's understandable. Now let's talk a little bit about the nicotine. The perception of nicotine is complicated with snuff by a couple of things. First of all, the route of delivery is slow if you compare it to smoking cigarettes. When you smoke a cigarette, it goes from your lungs into your bloodstream, through the blood-brain barrier, and to the receptors in your brain that will prompt the brain to release dopamine, which is the pleasure hormone. Now, this is why we get pleasure from using tobacco. With nasal snuff, the route is longer and slower. So if I'm going to evaluate nicotine of a snuff, that review would probably have to be at least 10 minutes long for me to get a real idea from my personal experience. Now remember, it's still going to be subjective, but it might be more accurate if I could take a little more time, because nicotine takes a while to reach your brain when you sniff snuff. The second problem is that my nicotine tolerance may be a good deal higher than yours. I have been taking nasal snuff off and on since 1975, and I've been using it steadily for the last, we'll say, 18 years. So I've had a lot of snuff up my nose. And let's not forget the tobacco I have used, including pipes, cigars, and sadly, cigarettes. I don't dip Copenhagen, but I've used dip. I think I've gone through a total of 2 cans of so-called smokeless tobacco, or dip, in my entire life. First time I ever did tobacco, in fact, it was Happy Days Raspberry Snuff. Now, I lived, give or take, 4 blocks from the church where my Boy Scout troop met. And I'm walking home. I'm about 15 years old. I know I wasn't supposed to be using nicotine, but hey, that's part of the fun, right? So I take a very, very conservative dip, very conservative, small, maybe the size of a blueberry, we'll say. Something small, little blueberry, little raspberry, something about that size, a pea, green pea. And I put it up between my lip and my gum and started walking home. I made it as far as the next door neighbor's yard before I collapsed on their front lawn and vomited my guts out. And then I decided at that point I don't really like dip. But I've used a lot of nicotine: pipes, cigars, cigarettes, dip, chewing tobacco, nasal snuff, nicotine pouches, and vaporized nicotine. And they all reach the brain a little faster or a little slower, depending on the route of delivery. And I got a lot of nicotine experience, so my tolerance is just stupidly high. And that will complicate, that will affect my rating of the nicotine. I might sniff something and go, yeah, there's no nicotine here. And a beginning snuff taker will listen to that and go, oh, perfect, a low nicotine snuff to start with. And then get the nick-ups and the spins and the pukes and everything else. So that part of it makes it difficult for me to accurately represent what the nicotine is on any given snuff. And finally, probably most significantly, I'm not an organic chemist, nor do I have a laboratory and chemicals in my house. I don't know how to test tobacco for nicotine content. Not at all. It's just going to be my experience. So what I do is I try to evaluate the nicotine if it's a question of too little time for the nicotine to actually reach my brain. I can usually just by intuition tell you what the outcome will be, what the nicotine level will be, and I'm usually correct. You start to get a hint of the nicotine within about 2 minutes of taking the snuff. And from that, I can extrapolate and tell you that on my subjective scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is nearly no nicotine, barely can feel it, it's not really there, all the way up to 10, which is you might get kind of sick from it. You might get the nicotine hiccups, you might get the spins, you might get the shakes, you might get heart palpitations and cold sweats at that level, depending on your nicotine tolerance. Truthfully, and probably thankfully, there are no snuffs that I've ever tried that rate as a 10, not with my tolerance. But there have been some that have come close. So 1.5, you won't really feel the nicotine. 10, you might get blown away by it. Most snuffs, commercial snuffs, are going to be right around the 5 or the 6 on that scale for most people. But I have to keep in mind, again, I have a ridiculously high nicotine tolerance. And this is completely unscientific. Well, now you know how I do my ratings. And whether it's for quality on the Squinty Scale or the Nicotine Scale, now you know the process I go through when I am reviewing any given nasal snuff. Now let's get back to the horse feathers, which has had time to bloom in my nose. I love that expression. Somebody used it in an email I got. And I've never used the expression bloom, but it's a wonderful way to describe the way the snuff scent develops in your nose. It blooms. It's true. And I'm going to start using that word. A few minutes in, the rustica is pretty much all that's there now, at least at the forefront. The star anise is almost completely gone. The floral notes, which were never really there, have disappeared completely, and I'm getting just a kiss of the basil. It's not unpleasant. And unlike the last time I reviewed it on Friday, it did not slide downhill after 2 minutes into a hot mess that smells like nothing and everything at the same time. No. On the contrary, this is a really nice ride right now. And the nicotine is just as impressive as I thought it was on Friday. But the scent profile is better. Imagine that. Change in body chemistry, maybe a little more experience with this stuff, and I'm willing to give it a 4 out of 5 instead of the 3 out of 5 I gave it on Saturday or Friday. So now you know how I do things. I hope that clears up my methodology a little bit for people who will have watched this channel. I'm very happy. This coming July, I think it is, I will celebrate 10 years on YouTube with this channel. It has been a wonderful experience. I've got something now like 850 videos. I don't really remember the count. This has been really fun for me. I've made a lot of new friends, many of whom I now communicate on a regular basis, and often we talk about anything but snuff. So it's really been fun. And I appreciate it. I love reading your comments. I'm still having some computer issues that don't allow me to respond to your comments at this point. I was able to, it was really bad because yesterday I was able to reply to like 7 comments. And I'm just trying to work my way down the page, and all of a sudden, computer just shuts off, gone. Not even a proper shutdown, it just stops. It's like somebody pulled the plug. And then I have to push the button on the faceplate of my computer again and wait for it to come back up, log in all over again, go back to Edge, and realize I can't reply to your comments, but I love to read them. And they really help with the channel. I appreciate your subscriptions. Remember, if you're going to participate in my giveaways, you have to be a subscriber. And you're going to want to participate in those giveaways. Besides, subscribing doesn't cost you anything. It's a great price. And you will get some of the best nasal snuff and alternative smokeless tobacco reviews on the internet. And it's free. Now, the like button. Yeah, I know. There's one of my viewers, very intelligent guy, obviously, and he knows his stuff about tobacco. His name is Yisrael David. And Yisrael, when I said that the likes help the algorithm, he said that's absolutely not true. Sorry, Yisrael, you're wrong. You are absolutely wrong. It doesn't have as much to do with the algorithm, but it does affect the algorithm in this way. YouTube rates popularity not only on the number of subscribers and likes, but also on comments, interaction with the audience, and so on. Longevity. If the video continues to generate a couple of hundred views a week and keep doing it year after year after year, that is the case with my nicotine side effects video, my effects of nasal snuff, benefits of nasal snuff video. A couple of these videos have 9,000, 12,000 views, but it's taken 8 years for me to get those. But YouTube looks at videos like that and say, okay, this guy is consistent. He gets new subscribers on a regular basis. There's a lot of comments to his channel and a lot of likes. So if Joe Blow from Wisconsin decides he's into nasal snuff but knows nothing about it and searches YouTube for nasal snuff reviews, the reviews with more likes and comments, given the same number of views and subscribers, would be more likely to be recommended during the YouTube video search. So that's how the likes help. I hope that's not too much information. And the comments help too. Now, I love to read your comments. As I said, at this point, I can't really reply to them. But as always, if you have a question or a comment or an insult or a good dirty joke, you can write to me at unclesquinty@gmail.com. Back to the horse feathers. She's about done. Just the last tiny little vestiges of a little bit of basal, and now the rusticus faded away, and it's leaving my nose relatively neutral. It wasn't a long time, but it was long enough for me to take the full ride on that bump. And yeah, I am going to upgrade my rating of horse feathers to 4 out of 5. I think it's a great snuff. And one of the things I do salute about Simon is that he's adventurous. His snuffs in general smell like nothing else that's out there. So far, that's been my experience. However, that being said, okay, Simon, you can tell me, okay? I won't judge you. I am not your judge. I am not your jury. I accept you as you are. But you have to tell me, did you or did you not have a tin of OSP batch number 4 in your hand when you were formulating this snuff? Because it's damn near a smell alike, except for the Rustica. Chris, OSP, used Burley. This is based on Rustica. But otherwise, the toppings, I think, are identical. Did you steal this idea? No judgment, Simon. No judgment. No judgment. I love you, man. You're a great snuff presenter. Got a gazillion subscribers. You know, you got your own line of snuff. You're a boss, man. You're a boss. But I gotta know. Did you steal Chris's aroma combination from batch number 4 from OSP? I think you did. I think that if it wasn't for the Rustica, this snuff would be a dead ringer. But hey, what do I know? I'm just a snuff reviewer. From the dank basement, I am Paul W. Shellbetter, in the flesh, your personal snuff guru, sommelier, and perfect master. You may call me Sensei if you wish, you don't have to. But you're always welcome to my dojo anytime. Come on by, let's sniff some snuff, and I'll have more snuff information, reviews, a pinch with your squinty, maybe some new music. Who knows what you're going to find on the Paul Shellbetter YouTube channel. Again, thank you for subscribing, hitting the like button, and most of all for your comments. I love reading every single one of them. And if you have a question, comment, or insult you want to keep between you and me, all you need to do is send me an email, unclesquinty@gmail.com.